I'm Donna Vance.
My name is Steve Vance.
I'm 62 years old.
I'm 64 years old. Wow.
I'm the mother of two children, and my husband and I have been married 40 years.
I was born around Dearborn, Michigan, and I spent the first 13 years there. We moved on to Clare, Michigan, with this huge town of 2,000.
I was born in Wyandotte, Michigan. I have two sisters and a brother.
I had one brother and a half-sister and a half-brother.
And my mom and dad were married 70 years, 60-some years, and had a very happy marriage. We had a very happy family. We were a very tight-knit family. I think I learned a lot from my mom and dad in respect to what family's all about.
Mom and Dad were, they set the rules, they did the enforcement, but they gave you freedom. So I was pretty independent. And so I was like always up at the parks or at the skating rink or wherever until it was time to eat. And then, of course, I went home because that was important, eating.
Well, when my mom and dad got married and that, they had my sister right away, or my dad was in the service, and then they had my sister Cindy, and then a year later they had me. And 6 years later, my sister came along, and 6 years after that, my brother came along, and we lived in a two-bedroom house, so it was a very tight quarters.
Being the oldest son, I had to pretty much break ground on everything. So my brother got it made, you know, just like the little one's the baby of the family.
When I was 13, we moved into a four-bedroom house in the suburbs, and my sister and I, the three of us shared a room, so it was very difficult for us to split us up into 3 bedrooms. So I said, can I sleep with one of the other kids? So my younger sister and I slept together for a while and then my sister and Cindy decided, we were so close in age, and we were always fighting over what we had. You know, we had radios together and we had a TV together, so it was like we just decided to move into the same room so we could share them. And we became best friends all through high school. We always were in school together. So in high school, her friends were my friends were her friends. She went away to college, and my dad said I had to go away too. So I picked the same school she went with too, just because I knew somebody there.
I was a fun-loving kid. I was kind of a jock. So I was into all kinds of sports. I wasn't shy. So, you know, I didn't have any problems getting involved with other kids in whatever they were doing. And I just sort of go with the flow. So I had a pretty good childhood. There was a lot of kids in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, they were all girls. But had I been older, that would have been great. But that age, they were just soft boys. When I graduated, I got accepted to Central Michigan, and of course my parents were so proud. I was going to be the first kid in all the families to ever go to college, so they thought that was pretty cool. For some reason, I wasn't as impressed as they were. I just knew it was going to happen.
Well, I went away to college, and that I wasn't real happy about going away. I wanted to go to Oakland University at home, and my dad decided that we needed to go get away from home and grow up and learn to do things on our own. And so, like I said, I chose Central because that's where my sister was. And first semester had a boyfriend at home, so I was a little bit, I want to go home. I don't want to be here.
Central, I had a lot of fun. I had a great time in college. And again, I was a lot like I was in high school, in that I was sort of anti-Greek. I wasn't going to have anything to do with those snobs. So we ended up pulling in a lot of people and my friends of other people who didn't exactly fit in, you know, but when you got us all together, we had a great time.
One evening, I got a call from a guy that was a friend of my sister's and wanted to know if I wanted to go to a party. But I was sick. I had strep throat, and I just did not want to go. So I fixed him up with my roommate.
We were living in a off-campus apartment, which was brand new, and we were having a party, and I didn't have a date that night. So one of my buddies asked me if you want a date, and I said, sure. You got somebody in mind, you know?
So then about 2 hours later, my roommate calls and said, there's this guy here, he's looking for a date. You want to come? And I said, oh, I do not want to go. I just felt so sick, and I just wanted to stay in bed.
She wasn't feeling well, I guess. And I said, well, too bad, I'm coming over right now. And I did.
He said, I'll be there in 15 minutes, so be ready. So I came down the stairs.
I could hear these little footsteps coming down the hall. And I'm going, he sounds like a little kid.
I remember him saying that he could always tell me coming down the stairs because I had these little tiny footsteps. They would go when I would walk.
I saw her come down the hall and I go, wow, she's cute. And what a looker. And she's not big, and because I like petite girls. And I go, ooh, that's pretty cool too.
I saw him in the lobby and I thought, oh, not too bad. He had nice blonde hair and blue eyes, and he wasn't fat. He was dressed nice, and I thought, well, this is nice.
And so we went outside, and immediately I started having a snowball fight with a bunch of other people. I don't know what she thought about that.
He seemed very pleasant. It wasn't too long, and I felt very comfortable with him. He was kind of funny.
But then we went to the party, and we had a really good time.
I had never had a drink before, and they handed me a glass of rum and I think it was gin and fruit punch. And I didn't realize I was taking codeine for my for the cold, and I drank the rum or the fruit punch and gin, and needless to say, I was very sick.
She ended up getting sicker than a dog. I go, oh, this is great. How much fun can this be?
And then I had to go check back into the dorm. Well, those days you had to sign in your name, and you had to be able to walk in the front door, which I couldn't do either. So we spent about an hour before it was time for me to go back to the dorms trying to sober me up.
I almost felt like I had to take care of her, you know? And I said, I might have put her in this position myself. He said, I didn't know anything about the cold medicine or anything like that, but...
I don't remember too much of the party, but I do remember us going in the bathroom and me throwing up. Him saying,
here, take some scope, rinse your mouth out. So she swallows it. I'm going, no, you can't do that.
And then I sat down in the bathtub and fell in the bathtub. So it wasn't a very romantic first date on his part.
Eventually, I took her back to the dorm, and I figured, well, that was just a different evening, you know?
So I got back in the dorm, and the next day I get a phone call saying, oh, you want to come to help us clean up from the party? And I thought, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. But needless to say, I got my clothes on and I went over, and that was probably a Saturday.
So the next morning was Sunday, and I went to church with my roommate, and we're both sitting there singing, and we were bad. Oh God, were we bad. And we were almost cracking each other up. We were singing so bad.
And I was sitting in church with my sister, and I looked over and I saw Steve.
And I looked up, and there she was. She was in a different pew a few over. And I'm going, oh my God, she's cute. She's petite. She's Catholic.
Oh, how neat. He's Catholic. And I go back to my grandmother always saying, if you marry yourself a good Catholic boy, you'll have a good marriage.
Grandma always said marry a Catholic. And I go, hey, maybe she's the one, you know?
And I thought, well, that's a first start. So needless to say, I think I knew right away it was him. When
I saw her sober in church, it kind of changed everything. I don't know. I said, I'm going to ask her out again.
And I tried to play it a little bit hard to get, but it was kind of tough. And we started dating.
We had discussed this before about love at first sight type things, and I said, did you know right away? And she says, yeah, she was pretty sure she knew right away. And I go, well, I wasn't quite as sure as she was, but it didn't take me too long to get there. So I would say probably after about 3 or 4 dates, I'm going, I think I could get serious about this one.
Our dates were very casual. You know, we would go to, there was a little bar that was on a golf course, and we'd go and have a couple drinks, and we'd have one drink, and neither one of us were big drinkers and that, but we'd have one drink, we'd pick the, pay for the first round, and then we'd leave because that was all we could afford.
Since she lived at a dorm, that pretty much structured the hours that she was available, and it's probably just as well. Because like I said, I had to work full time, both during school, so I didn't have a lot of time for dating. So I was working a lot. And the rest of the time was either studies and then what we could get in for social time.
We dated for about a year, and then we got engaged. And my dad said, you can't get married till you're out of school.
So I don't know, was it 1 year after we got and been dating, we got not engaged. I think it's called lavaliered or something like that. It's engaged to be engaged type thing. And I don't know. It was a thing back then in college. So we were steady together for about another year, and that puts me in my senior year. But and I said, okay, I am going to be done with school. She isn't. She's got another year to go. So I said, so I knew this was the one, and so I ended up getting her a diamond out of my school loan.
I was going to say, how did you get a diamond?
Yeah.
You guys were probably hurting.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a very expensive diamond, but it was a little chip thing. But it was the world to her. And I was sort of ashamed of how small it was, but that's the best I could do at the time.
And so I said, okay. So we finished school, and 2 weeks after I graduated from college, I got married.
It was a natural progression. We dated, then it got lavaliered, and during that lavaliering time, am I going to be interested in other girls, that kind of stuff? And I wasn't. And I knew I was dead serious about her, and that was just going to be her. So I had no reservation whatsoever about asking her to marry me. And of course, I liked her family, she liked my family. I said everything's just pretty much fallen into place.
Well, I got engaged a year, and then after we met, and then we didn't get married for another 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Yeah, she had another year of school to go through. And in fact, not another year, but another year and a summer school to finish.
Yeah, okay.
So she and her mother planned this whole wedding while she was in school. Because after she got out from summer school, we got married like 2 weeks later.
My folks were very supportive of our relationship, because when Steve, he graduated the year before me, and they let him come and live with them.
I lived with her parents for that year, and I found a job down there and worked down there. So people would wonder, oh man, how'd that work out?
And I thought, oh my God, my mother and Steve in the same room, this is not going to work. They're both Geminis. They both said exactly what they think, and I thought, this is going to be the end of the relationship, I'm sure.
She and I absolutely hit it off great. So I would just, for her, and she'd come right back and do the same. And which her husband loved, because it kept her entertained while he was working, and he didn't have to listen to it. And she had a younger brother that was like 12, so I sort of adopted him as a big brother. And we did a lot of things together, and roller skating and all sorts of things. So that worked out good too.
My mom, for years afterwards, she said she loved it because she had somebody in the morning to get up and have coffee with and read the paper. I think she always appreciated Steve's humor, and he was very good to both my mom and dad.